welcome to Find Your Inner Compass workshop. I am so excited to get started. So let me put the slides up so we can get rolling. So as people are tuning in, I'd love to hear where you are tuning in from or what is exciting you about today's training. So we are going to go over how to find your inner compass. We're going to talk about high functioning anxiety, life balance, personal fulfillment, anxiety management, and so much more. So let's dive in. So a little bit about me. You might be wondering who I am, what I'm about, all of that jazz. So my name is Alyssa Cotton. I live here in Anchorage, Alaska. I have an undergrad from Northern Arizona and a master's from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. I am trained in EFT, EMDR, sensory motor, IFS, PTSD, dissociation, and addiction. So a little bit about my career path is I worked at a tribal organization 5 years. It was an addiction treatment center. And for the last 5 years, I have been my own business owner in a private practice setting called Arctic Horizon Counseling. So just kind of putting out there for today's training of just kind of getting your headspace in this mode. So does the world tell you that you are dynamic, ambitious, and successful, but you struggle to see that yourself? If that is the case, you might be a high achiever with high functioning anxiety. So on the surface, you appear successful, collected, and calm. But as a person who excels in work and life, you might be feeling on the inside that you're inconsistent with this perception that people believe you to be. Awesome. Thank you for joining. We've got some people in the chat. So stay till the end of this training to learn all about how you can start to heal your high functioning anxiety so we can just keep being a high achiever, because there's this common misconception that we need to be a high achiever and we need our anxiety to force us to be a high achiever. And that if we heal that anxiety, what happens to being this high achiever? So this training is for you if you struggle with anxiety and lack of confidence in your life. If you are tired of seeing people achieve their goals with ease and flow, wishing that was you. If you are ready to live a life without anxiety and have that true fulfillment. If you are done letting your past wounds, traumas, or fears hold you back from living the life that you want. Anxiety can totally hinder so many areas of your life. And when we can release that anxiety, things are easy. You're waking up and you're not having that pitter patter in your chest. You're waking up with excitement and fulfillment. And it can just be a really beautiful experience. So some definitions that I'm going to go over that will really help us in today's training is the first one is inner compass. So the inner compass is basically our internal navigation system. So when you are in alignment with living in harmony with who you really are and what is best for you, your inner compass points directly north. And when you start to feel a sense of when you start to feel that sense of comfort and ease, that is when your inner compass is pointing north. When we are out of alignment, we're not living in our beliefs, we're not living in our values, that is when our inner compass kind of points wonky ways, and then we're not making actions that are in alignment with our goals. So for example, if you want to be a successful author, but anytime someone asks you about writing, you start to say, oh, that's not for me, that's because your inner compass isn't pointing directly north. It's not in alignment. If you're waking up with anxiety every day, your inner compass isn't pointing north. So the next one is high achiever. High achievers are people who are hardworking and successful. So to the world, they are seen as dynamic, ambitious, and successful. And I believe everyone watching this training, whether you're watching it live or the replay, is a high achiever. The fact that you wanted to get more training, more knowledge tells me that you are a high achiever. And so often I'm not a high achiever. I'm not this, I'm not that. That's not my experience. And we really downplay our own successes because we don't want to be seen as boastful or over the top, when in reality, we are really successful. You are a hard worker. So you could call yourself a high achiever. And what happens is the next definition is this high functioning anxiety. Awesome. We've got some people tuning in, watching from New Jersey, looking forward to waking up with more excitement. Beautiful. I love it. Thanks for being here. So, high functioning anxiety is a form of anxiety where individuals appear to be functioning well on the outside, but what's happening on the inside is this constant pressure, like go, go, go. I can't stop, because if I stop, I'm not going to have that energy or that pushing, that pressure to keep going. And what happens with the high functioning anxiety is it constantly has us go on this like hamster wheel where we're constantly striving to be the best version, even if it's at the cost of our emotional well-being or even what could be appear to be our sanity. Awesome. Welcome. So here is a little bit about my own story and why I'm so passionate about talking being a high achiever with high functioning anxiety. So we can rewind back to fall of 2020, or 2011. I had just started grad school and I found myself depressed, heartbroken, alone, single with no friends. I had just graduated undergrad and I was going to grad school and I was moving to a city in the Midwest, and I was from Alaska that moved to Arizona to the Midwest. And I was in complete culture shock of just the different way of being. And I was so depressed that I wasn't getting dressed up. I wasn't changing my clothes. I wasn't caring about my appearance. I was in a full-blown depression. And then I was diagnosed with depression. And at this point in my career, I was going to school to become a counselor. And I remember thinking, my whole world is over. How can I be a counselor if I can't even help myself? I'm so chronically depressed. So what happened was my depression totally swung to anxiety. I didn't get into that sweet spot of true harmony, true alignment. I actually swung to anxiety. And what happened was I started attending every personal development, self-development course you could possibly do. I started doing the whole fake it till I make it. I was dressing up. I was doing my makeup. I was like, I'm going to get so serious about my job. And then what happened was all of these compliments started rolling in. People were praising me saying, wow, you're so organized. You're so efficient. You make everything look so easy. You're so put together. And what happened was I was so consumed by all of these compliments that my brain said the only way to stay at this level is to be stuck in this anxiety mode. So I signed up for all of these trainings of how can I be even faster, smarter, more put together. And what happened was I created a life that was no longer sustainable. I kept trying to outdo this version of myself that just wasn't realistic. And there was this false sense of success. I had the business, the car, the house, the relationship, but I was so consumed by the next goal, I couldn't even stop to pause to enjoy the life that I had created. I was so constantly stuck in this cycle of anxiety. So what happened was in 2018, I had paid off my student loans. I'd worked so hard to do that. That was like my main driving factor. And I had this huge party to celebrate me paying off my loans. And what happened was as soon as I paid off my loans, I had this huge identity crisis of how am I going to justify working so hard, overworking, doing this if I can't use that excuse of my loans won't pay for themselves? So I didn't know how to recreate this inner drive. I was so afraid that if I lose this inner drive, people would start to see that I was a fraud, that I wasn't actually successful, and that I was all of these negative experiences. So I was grasping at straws to hold on to this identity. And that's where I totally did a 180. And I said, I can't keep doing this journey of depression, anxiety. And I needed to really focus on looking inward and figuring out what made me happy and what was my purpose. So that is where we get this training today. So if this story at all relates or connects to you, where you've gone from that pendulum of anxiety to depression, and you're constantly swinging from crashing to burnt out to crashing to burnt out, this training is for you. So here are some reflection questions that you can ask yourself. What is your goal for today's training? And where is your headspace at this moment? Do you feel excited, motivated, exhausted, ready to learn? I'd love to hear in the chat where you feel like your headspace is at, because when we can identify our headspace, we can be more open to learning new things, or ask yourself, what is your goal for today's training? And if you're watching the replay, you can definitely just take some notes and put it in your journal. So you can take some personal notes and just kind of ask yourself where you're at. So let's just dive right into high functioning anxiety. So high functioning anxiety to the outside world is perceived as you've made it in life. You are loyal, you're super helpful, you're very active, you're hardworking, you're outgoing, you're detail orientated, you're successful, you're driven, and you're productive. You're this amazing idea of what a high achiever is, right? So now we add the anxiety part, and what's happening is how you perceive the world. All right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. We've got some people sharing at this moment. I'm feeling overwhelmed and constantly busy. Yeah. I bet you might connect with this high achieving, high functioning anxiety. So at the moment, people are probably seeing, oh my gosh, you're so hardworking, you're outgoing, you're driven, you're productive. But on the inside, what you're feeling is probably poor boundaries, trouble to say no, an inability to slow down, that fear if I slow down, I'm not going to be as efficient or as effective. And what happens if I'm not efficient and effective? What you might feel is people pleasing, constantly saying yes, yes, yes to everyone, even if it's at the cost of your own sanity. Overthinking, you might be looking at emails saying, how is the tone of this email? Is it productive? Is it stressful? Are they thinking I'm being rude? So you're rereading emails because you don't want to be perceived as whatever. So you're constantly overthinking it. And then that leads to feeling like I'm not enough. I need to sign up for one more training. If I had one more training, then people would respect me, or they would look at me with respect. Or if I had one more this, or if I just did this, I would be enough, which then leads to overextending. You're constantly spread so thin because you're trying to do everything all at once, which then leads to that external validation, needing people to say, wow, you're so put together, you're so amazing, you're so this. And that leads to this high functioning anxiety because the world is rewarding you. The world's like, oh my gosh, you struggle. I'll never forget when I was in that cycle, people would give me compliments and I'd be like, yeah, I'm really stressed. They're like, why? You've got this, that, you never get issues at work. This never happens. Everyone loves your work. So then those compliments were like, oh, in order to keep those compliments, I need to keep at this level of intensity. And it's just this never ending cycle of trying to outdo yourself. So what happens is the world sees you as this really positive dynamic experience, and you are feeling like, as you kind of mentioned, feeling overwhelmed or constantly busy because you're constantly trying to go, go, go. Does anyone relate to this chart or this little diagram here of what the world might see versus how you feel? Yeah, we've got absolutely. So think about which high achieving, high functioning viewpoints did you connect with? You can either share that in the chat or make a note. I know for me, the people pleasing was really hard. Everyone just thought I was this super outgoing, agreeable person, when in reality, I was so afraid that if I told somebody no, what would happen? Would my job be in jeopardy? Could I get fired or laid off? Or would somebody spread something about me that I'm not good to work with, and then nobody would want to hire me, right? All these rumination of all these really negative thoughts with that high functioning anxiety of trying to constantly go, go, go. So this is what happens with the high functioning anxiety dilemma. So it feels like you're a failure when you think about asking for support. The idea of slowing down is so scary because if I slow down, how am I going to have enough time to get all the work done? So people praise your efficiency and your level of achievements. So the fear is, if I don't keep going, what will happen? Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing. We've got people pleasing, overthinking, poor boundaries. Definitely. I connect with all of that. And I want to let you know that there is hope. You can get out of that cycle. So another high functioning anxiety dilemma is you don't want to lose your momentum, and your anxiety fuels that productivity and that sense of achievement. And that fear is, if I get rid of that anxiety, how am I going to be as productive or as successful? Because we know procrastination, the reason that procrastination works is because that pressure, that's the deadline of you've got so many minutes to get this done, is really on that, as we could say, that full court press. So here's a huge dilemma with anxiety is if I heal my anxiety, how am I going to still be this dynamic person? And that's where we get to really focus on, you can still be this dynamic person without the anxiety. And there are people, and I am proof myself that you can make that change. So you want to slow down, but you don't want life or your job to be impacted. You're ready for change, but you don't know where to look. When you ask for people for help, they say, you don't need it. You're way more functioning than me. You don't need help. You've got it put together. If you need help, what does that say about me as a person, right? And so when you start to ask for help, people are like, what do you mean? Like, how could you have stress? Like, you've got everything you need. And this dilemma of, no, I'm asking for help, but people don't get it. So have you been searching for support, but nobody gets it or understands? You want to make a change in your life, but you fear it's impossible. So these are just some reflection questions that you can journal about of what happens when you do ask for help. Do people actually take you serious? Or they're like, nope, you don't need any. You've figured out, you always figured out. Or you feel like you've been in this cycle for so long that there's fear that how could I make changes with it? So what happens is we have life goals and we have ambition. And so when we have these goals, maybe your goals are whatever. For example, let's say you want to write a book. And so that faith that I could be a published author leads to you taking actions. Maybe you start writing short stories or you start entering story contests. And then those actions lead to proof. Maybe people are saying, wow, you're actually a really great writer and you've got this and you're that, and that looks really good. And so that proof then leads to you believing in yourself. So we have to have this kind of blind faith that I can be successful and that I can make things happen. And when we can believe in that, we start to have our actions be in alignment. We start to get proof. And then that proof really leads to that belief of like, I can do this. But what happens is, what if I don't have faith in myself? What if I don't believe that I could make a difference, make some changes? And what happens is when we don't have faith in ourselves, we're unable to achieve those goals or make those life ambitions happen. Because you might say, I have a plan, but I don't believe. And when we don't believe, we don't have that faith. And when we lack that faith in ourselves, we're not going to take actions, right? If I'm focusing on writing a story, I'm not going to write that story because I don't think that it's going to lead to anywhere. So why even take the actions? And with those lack of actions, it leads to lack of proof. And that lack of proof leads to lack of belief. And when we are not believing in ourselves, we are unable to take that faith, that blind faith, which then leads to action. So it's all a domino effect. And what happens is it starts with faith in ourselves. I'm not talking about a religious faith. I mean, faith in our own abilities to achieve our goals. So you might be asking, okay, what takes away from having faith in myself? And there's so many things, and you're going to be like, oh, no wonder. There's so many things that can pull just our life experiences. So some of the things that can pull us from having faith in ourselves is having unhealthy coping skills, lack of self-care, feeling burnt out, feeling undervalued or used or unloved, lacking self-esteem or lacking that support. When you reach out for help, they say, you don't need it. So how am I going to have faith if my support system doesn't see that I need that support? An unhealed past, unresolved anger, addictive behaviors such as drinking or drugs, unresolved grief, loss, having that anxiety can really pull away from your faith, having trauma. A huge one is having a perceived lack of time. So if I don't believe there's enough hours in the day to make change, then I'm not going to make any change. Low motivation, unexplained life changes. As we know, 2 years ago, there was a huge life change. And we might start to believe, oh, man, I can't make any change because of this or because of that. Work changes, fear of new self. If I become this new person, Will my friends and family accept me? Will they think, oh, you're better than us because you are a new person, or that doesn't bother you, or you don't want to gossip anymore? And all this fear of a new self leads to fear of isolation. And another one that can pull away from our faith and believing in ourselves is feeling discouraged when other people succeed, because we think something must be wrong with us if the other people are succeeding and I'm not. So these are just some examples of what can pull away from you having your faith, which then leads you to taking those first steps and taking those actions. And you might be asking, all right, how do I cultivate that belief? How do I start going on that? So restoring your faith will lead to you developing a belief in yourself. And how you restore your faith is through self-love. So doing self-love activities such as affirmations, journaling, gratitude log. Really, you have to start being your own hype person, hyping yourself up of, I'm successful, I'm this, I'm that. I don't need my anxiety to fuel me. I'm enough the way I am. And when we start to rewire your brain, you're going to start to have that faith, and then you're literally going to be unstoppable. You've seen those people on social media who are like, if you can dream it, you can do it. And you're like, wow, how do these people just have this unwavering faith that they can make it happen? And that is where self-love comes in. And when you can start to do more self-love, your faith is going to expand, and things that seemed impossible before will now feel so doable and so manageable. So ask yourself, what is causing you to lack faith in yourself? Ask yourself, is there something, was there an event, was there an incident that's really been making you question, how come I don't believe that I'm capable of doing this? Or how come I don't have that unwavering faith in my abilities? So we're going to talk about the window of tolerance, and the window of tolerance is going to transform the way you look at stress. So often we think of stress as just, I'm stressed and that's that. But there's actually two types of stressors. And when we are in that stress mode, our body actually changes. So the window of tolerance is how much we, like our little window, how much we can tolerate as humans, how much you can tolerate as a person. And when you are in that zone, when you're in that window of tolerance, your feelings and your actions can adapt to your current situations. What happens is life gives us stress, or we can't be stress-free. And life will kick us out of that window of how much we can tolerate. And when we get kicked out of that window, we experience two types of stressors. So the first type of stressor we experience is that anxiety, which we can look at the red part of the slide, is that hyperarousal. So we're looking at hypervigilance, feeling overwhelmed, feelings of anxiety, panic, racing thoughts, fear, emotional flooding, reactivity, anger, and defensiveness. So what happens is when we get kicked out of the window and we start to feel anxious, we can think of it as red hot fire. The light switch is on. Now, on the flip side, when we experience stress, we can go all the way to the opposite side, which is depression, which is hypoarousal, which is feeling passive, no feelings, shut down. You can't say no. You might feel numbness and emptiness, exhaustion, depression, flat affect, disconnected, or even dissociation. So at any moment when you are stressed, you might be feeling anxious in the red, or the opposite, which is blue, depressed, numb, kind of like the light switches off, ice cold. And what happens is if you're not using the right coping skills, you're going to stay either in that red zone or that blue zone. So you might be thinking, oh, I've been doing coping skills incorrectly because I thought I'm stressed. I need to just do a coping skill. But what happens is we have to do the right coping skill to get you back into that window of tolerance so you can tolerate. So the goal is to be in this beautiful purple spot. So now you might be asking, okay, well, how come sometimes things stress me out versus other things? And every single day, our window of tolerance can change. So for example, we see the two lines there. Here would be an example of a very small window of tolerance. And as you see on the chart, we have all these lines, and I will explain that in a quick second. So for example, let's say we wake up, let's go back to this slide. we wake up and we slept through our alarm. So now we're like feeling a little bit anxious, but we're thinking, actually, I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to be late to work because I don't have a meeting first thing. So now we're like back in that window and we're kind of like hitting all the red lights and we're feeling stressed. So then what happens is we get to work and we have this email from our boss that says we need to talk. And what happens is we go out of the window. And as you see that line, we are out of the window and we are now in the red. And maybe our coworker says, oh, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And then your boss gives you a scary look. So you're staying out of the window. And then maybe let's say after your meeting, you get a text message that somebody you love is in the hospital. And now you've crashed. You're down into the blue of feeling depressed, numb, no emotions, and you're down there. And then maybe you get a call that visiting hours have opened and you can go visit your loved one. So now you're back in the window because you feel like I can help this person. So what happens throughout the whole day, we can go in and out of the window of tolerance. But what happens is if you have a very small window, do you see how the same person who woke up and missed their alarm is now already feeling anxiety? And that's why sometimes you wake up feeling anxious. So what's happening is you're waking up and you are getting out of that window of tolerance. You're no longer in that sweet purple spot. And when you get out of that window, you can't think and adapt to your current situation. You're going to think as if you are anxious, or you're going to think as if you are depressed. So the goal in life is to expand, right? Can you imagine if we had this huge window of tolerance and we are barely out of the window? Things don't stress us out. Even though stressful things are happening, we're not feeling stress. So for example, in this one, the person with their boss saying, hey, let's meet, it might feel anxiety provoking, but you're not actually out of that window. But you're still going to maybe feel numb and disconnected when you hear that negative news of a loved one being in a hospital. So throughout the day, we can experience all of these changes. So the goal is to expand how much you can tolerate so that way you can keep handling all the stress that life throws at you. So when you are outside of the window of tolerance, the goal is to bring yourself back into the window of tolerance. But you have to use the proper coping skills in order to get into that sweet purple. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, or if you want to message me after to have a screenshot, I can send this to you. So basically, if you're in the red, the goal would be to bring your heart rate down. So if you're feeling anxious, the goal is to bring your heart rate down. And on the opposite end, if you're feeling blue and depressed, we need to elevate your heart rate to get you back in the window. So we think red plus blue equals purple. So the goal is to do the opposite coping skill. So as you can see here in the red, if you are feeling anxious, we need to do grounding exercises that's going to calm you and bring you down. So you're going to wrap yourself in a quilt, take a warm shower, a bubble bath, light scented candles, read positive affirmations, massage your hands with soothing lotion, listen to relaxing music. You're just going to basically do so many exercises that's going to lower your heart rate. All the things to lower your heart rate. And on the opposite side, if you're feeling numb, disconnected, blue, depressed, we need to do things that's going to elevate your heart rate. Because if you are feeling depressed and you go do a guided meditation, you're going to still feel really grounded. We need to get your heart rate up so you can get that momentum moving. So if you're feeling depressed, you're going to want to do exercise, marching, jumping, listening to music, dancing, laughing, going outside and hugging a tree, doing all these things that's going to get your heart rate up. And the more we can get our heart rate up, the better we are in that sweet spot of feeling in that zone of the window of tolerance. So the more we can tolerate. So the easy way to think about it is if you're feeling red, lower your heart rate. If you're feeling depressed, get your heart rate up. It's the easiest thing, and it's going to be a lot more effective than you just doing random throwing spaghetti on the wall coping skills. So going out of your comfort zone will naturally help you expand your window of tolerance. So ask yourself, what is something that I could do this week to go out of my comfort zone? And the more we can expand our comfort zone, the more we can expand our window of tolerance. But what happens is sometimes our job requires us to be in that red, again, that high functioning anxiety. So you have to ask yourself, does my job require me to be in the red? Does my job kind of influence me constantly in this go, 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 high anxiety, intensity, hypervigilant state. And if that's the case, how can you do a lot of those grounding exercises before work, after work, or even on your lunch break to help keep you in that zone of the window of tolerance? Scarcity and abundance. So we are going to talk about basically how our brain is wired and why our brain is wired to be that anxious, high anxiety state. So if we go back to hunter-gatherer lifestyle and we think about the way that our brains worked, our brains were wired to think in scarcity, that there's not enough to go around, there's not enough to share, we can't do it all, we have to think in this really scarce headspace, which then fuels this anxiety because our brain is wired to constantly think that there's not enough and there's not enough for me. So what we get to do is we get to remind our brain our world has advanced and evolved so quickly. Our brain is constantly thinking, oh, there's not enough, but our brain doesn't realize that if I want to get food, like for example, I could grab my phone right now, order food, and it would be here before the training is done. Our brain is so consumed with that hunter-gatherer lifestyle that it's constantly thinking that the world is scarce and that there's not enough to go around. But when we are in a headspace of abundance, we are open, we are excited, we are motivated, and we are not as stressed as scarcity, because abundance tells us we can think and feel in that sweet spot of that zone of window of tolerance, while scarcity is either stuck in that anxiety or stuck in that depression. So here are some examples of scarcity versus abundance. So scarcity says, there's not enough to go around, I can't afford X. Also, scarcity says in a work setting, I have all the answers. No one can teach me anything. I can't learn. I've got all the answers. Or even feeling reluctant to share or collaborate, because if I talk about my good ideas at work and someone else steals it, then I'm going to be afraid that I'm not going to get that credit. So that reluctance is a scarcity idea, instead of being like, we can all share the same ideas and we can all share the same headspace and I can collaborate. Scarcity also says I can't take risks. I can't put myself out there. Scarcity also says stagnation, that it's safer to be in the comfort zone. We don't need to try new things, which leads to fear, doubt, resistance to change, and expecting bad news. So if you're constantly expecting bad news, that is a scarcity headspace, because when we think about the hunter-gatherer lifestyle, they were constantly afraid of bad news. They were constantly expecting bad news so they could be prepared. If a saber-toothed tiger was going to come, they would be prepared to battle that, prepared to have the forces and have everything in place. But we live in an abundant world where we can actually enjoy abundance, which is going to naturally lower our anxiety and our stress. So abundance says there's more than enough. I don't need to hoard jars of oxygen, because I know there's oxygen everywhere. And abundance says I have financial options. Instead of saying I can't afford that, you're saying I'm choosing not to buy that right now. I'm choosing not to put that on credit. I'm choosing not to use this. I'm choosing to save. Abundance also says I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to collaborate with others and share my ideas without fear that they're going to steal it. Abundance says I am open to exploring opportunities. I'm open to learning. I'm ready to grow. And it actually seeks growth, seeks that opportunity to grow from others. Abundance says I am creative and I am excited about my creative opportunities. And abundance has faith. Just like we talked about in the very beginning, of faith leads to you achieving your goals, because having that faith leads to you taking action, which then leads to you having to believe in yourself. And abundance means I can have faith in my abilities. Having faith also has compassion. You can say, I can acknowledge my stressor and acknowledge your stressor, that it's not a competition. You know, you might experience people say like, oh, I had an awful day. And then the person's like, well, I had an even worse day because this, and this happened. That's a scarcity mindset. While abundance says we both can have bad days and we don't need to compete with each other. The next thing for abundance is trusting that good things are coming my way. Understanding that stress will always be there, but how could we see through the lens that good things are coming my way? Because if we look back and throughout our past, there have been times where good things have come your way. And so really embodying this abundance. And when we embody this idea of abundance, there's no room for anxiety, right? Because anxiety makes us feel that we're out of control, which again, because we're out of that window of tolerance. And when we are out of that window, we're thinking in that scarcity of, I've got fear, doubt, stagnation. I don't want to collaborate. I'm expecting bad news. There's not enough to go around, all this fear. While abundance says, hey, it's going to work out. I don't know how it's going to work out. It might be a little bit bumpy on the way, but I'm going to expect that good things can come my way. And when we can really embody that abundance, there's literally no room for anxiety. So here are some reflective questions for you. Are you making daily/life choices out of fear instead of happiness or joy? And how that looks is fear that I need to do this, this, and this because society tells me, or fear that I need to go, 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 go. Or am I actually choosing out of happiness? Because sometimes when we choose decisions out of happiness, that can ruffle feathers, or that can let people down, or that changes people's perspective of us. So it's really important that we ask ourselves, how are we making our life choices? Is it out of fear, or is it actually out of feeling good and feeling in alignment? Another question you can really ask yourself is, are you unable to ask for help, whether that's personally or professionally, for fear of how it may be received? If I ask for help, does that mean I'm not competent enough, that I'm not qualified? If I ask for help, does that mean something's wrong with me? And so often we are so afraid to ask for help because we don't know how it's going to be perceived. So we would rather just suffer in silence than to be open about our struggles. So here are some just reflective questions for you to think about. So as we're on this journey of life, scarcity tells our brain, I need a new path. My path is too narrow. So we've got this fork in the road, and scarcity constantly says, I need to find a new path, new path, new path. This might be, I need new this, I need new that. While abundance says, I can just widen my current path. I don't constantly need a new path over and over. And so scarcity makes us believe that we constantly have to choose this or that, while abundance says, no, I'm just going to widen my path. And if that means I add this or I add that, I've got all these tools in my toolbox. I don't need to constantly change my path. I can just widen it and really embrace that idea. So the goal is to have this abundance headspace so that no matter what life throws at you, you're not constantly in this anxiety, panic mode of I need to change my direction all the time, but I can just embrace that I can just keep widening my path, right? Widening that window of tolerance so you can tolerate more in your world. So how we can help get our headspace in abundance is through mantras. So a mantra is a statement or a phrase you tell yourself to remind you to get out of that scarcity headspace. So here are some examples. I am enough the way I am. One day at a time. I can face any challenge. I always have options. I'm loving the life I'm creating. So I'd love to hear, for those of you watching live, could you take a moment and create a mantra, or maybe you already have a mantra, and maybe you can put that in the chat so we can see what your mantra is that can help you get out of that scarcity headspace. This one is my favorite, one day at a time. That's kind of the one that I respond to. You know, I just got to focus on today, and tomorrow will come when tomorrow comes. But today, I just really need to focus on being present and in my body today, and the rest will come forward. I always have options. That is beautiful and such an abundant headspace, because we always have options. Even if the option isn't what we want, we still always have options, because we have the choice on how we want to react or respond to the next level. So ask yourself, what do you want in life, or what do your current habits? Do they reflect what you want? Are your habits in alignment with what you're actually wanting in life? And another thing you can ask yourself is, are you always in a hurry, fearing that you're running out of time, which is another scarcity headspace where we're constantly racing the clock. I can't have a lunch break because I have to work, or I can't pause for 1 minute and just breathe because I have to do all these things. And we're constantly racing time when we know that time is always there. Time is just this abstract idea that we've got 24 hours. But what would happen if we just paused one time a day to just focus on our breath, or to do a meditation, or to go outside and do a quick walk? But what happens is we're always fearing that we're running out of time, when in reality, we have enough time to get everything done. It's just our perception stuck in that scarcity headspace. So EFT is the key to unlocking and changing your brain. So EFT is so powerful. And if anyone here follows me on social media, they know how obsessed I am with EFT. So EFT is emotional freedom technique. And we have these emotional meridian points throughout our body that when we tap on them, we are able to actually rewire our brain. So as everything we've done up until this point was cognitive learning, that was our conscious brain, our brain that is like our thinking brain right here, our prefrontal cortex. We do that thinking brain. And what happens is when we switch to that unconscious mind or our subconscious mind, that is what stores our memories and our traumas, and we can store that in our limbic system. And what happens is when we do EFT, we're able to make change, not just on a conscious level, but we're able to make change on a subconscious level. And so what happens is if you've ever been in talk therapy and you're talking about your problems and then you're leaving and you're like, oh, I'm feeling really good, but I'm not actually feeling any change, that's because we're not changing it on basically a cellular level or a brain level. So EFT is literally the key that can unlock that change that you've been desiring, that release of anxiety or that hold. So we have these emotional meridian points, and when we tap on these emotional meridian points, we're actually able to rewire our brain. And if our brain is wired right now to think in scarcity, anxiety, depression, go, 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 we can rewire the brain to slow down, to release that anxiety, to release that pressure, so we can really live a life of true fulfillment. So I'm going to go over some points with you. So I do what's called faster EFT, or it's called like EFT reboot. So there's actually 8 meridian points, but I only focus on 4 of them. So you can see the little pink dots on the slide. So we've got top of the eyebrow, side of the eye, under the eye, collarbone, and then you squeeze your wrist, which helps you reset your body and get back into your body. And you are able to process so much more faster than if you were just doing talk therapy, because we're actually activating the brain. And when we're tapping these, we're stimulating our brain while we're stimulating our meridian points, which allows us to release so much stress and anxiety that our body is storing, because our body stores emotion. So the easiest way to release the emotions is to do some type of embodiment work, which is like the EFT tapping. So how we can release what's happening is through this 3-step process. So the first one, we do 3 rounds of tapping, and the first round is what we call the truth of how we're feeling. So this is where we get to get out of denial, and we get to acknowledge, how am I feeling in the moment through the stress? We might say, all this anxiety in my body, all of this stress, I feel it everywhere. It's so intense. I don't know how to get started. I don't know how to shake it out. And we basically acknowledge how we're feeling. And when we acknowledge how we're feeling, we're lighting up that neural pathway that's connected to those words. And then what happens is round 2 of tapping is we do a silly animal story. And the silly animal story really confuses the brain because it's no memories attached to it. So now we've got this neural pathway of this memory of stress lit up. And then we confuse it and the brain's like, what's happening? So what we do the 3rd round is we install a positive affirmation or hope. I've got this. I'm safe. I'm protected. I can do anything I desire. I have a lot of faith in myself. I have so much self-love and compassion. And when we start doing that positive affirmations or installing hope, now we're actually rewiring the brain to be more positive and have more hope. And when we're more positive and we have more hope, we're able to release that anxiety. We're able to release that scarcity and truly be in alignment of abundance. So EFT is a beautiful opportunity for you to work through that conscious and that subconscious programming. And when I'm saying programming, I'm just meaning all of that anxiety and scarcity that you have in your mind, in your body, in your brain, that we have just as a society, as a collective, and how we can release that through EFT tapping. So here are some reflective questions are, where do you want to be in the next 6 months? So think about winter solstice, December, close to the new year. And then ask yourself, where do you want to be in a year? So next June, right? Next solstice, we're almost at solstice in a couple of days. Where do you want to be? Do you still want to be waking up feeling anxious or constantly in this scarcity headspace of fear and anxiety and stress? Or are you wanting to make changes and overhaul your entire way of being? So are you ready to break the high functioning anxiety cycle? And are you ready to heal your traumas that are holding you back from living your full potential? And are you ready to live a life in an abundant headspace? If you said yes, it's time to make some changes and follow your inner compass. So I am so excited. I have not opened doors in almost 2 years. So I have open enrollment for my signature program called Inner Compass Accelerator. And it's an accelerated program to help you realign your inner compass. And it's an entire in-depth program that's really designed to teach you how to heal yourself. So it's no longer just these quick fixes, but we are healing your anxiety so it's no longer showing up in your everyday life. And we do that through conscious mind, through the modules. And then there are 2 weekly group calls every week where we're doing EFT tapping, which is going to help reprogram your brain and rewire your brain, your neural pathways in your brain. There is a private support group to share your successes, your struggles, and your wins. So let me dive a little bit more about that. So Inner Compass Accelerator is this incredible program that I created from my own experience of getting off that hamster wheel of high functioning anxiety all the way to feeling like this high achiever, pendulum swinging from depression to anxiety, and how to break that cycle. So as I mentioned, there are 2 group calls every single week, 8 modules with reflective worksheets that's going to help activate that conscious mind. And then the group calls help heal the subconscious mind. So we're doing both of the conscious and subconscious healing. There's weekly journal prompts, there's a monthly workshop hosted, and a private support group. And the beauty of all of this is there's lifetime access. So once you enroll in this program, you are enrolled for life. So any changes, any updates, you are going to get those updates. There is a bonus EFT teaching you how to do your own EFT so you can heal your own wounds so you don't have to constantly seek another person to heal. There are worksheets on how to teach you how to do that EFT, and there's a bonus masterclass on quick, effective change. So all of this stuff, I am so excited to open the doors and get people enrolled. So Inner Compass Accelerator is a 3-step process. So step 1, we are identifying and uncovering the problems, the struggles, and your setbacks that you've identified in your life. Step 2 is we heal it on a conscious and a subconscious level. We are healing it on all parts of the body and the brain. So that way you can integrate your new identity as a happy, healthy, healed self. So other programs that you might have looked at only heal on the conscious level, the cognitive level, which is why you feel relief in the moment, but not long-lasting change. And the reason is because they're not healing both parts, that mind and body. They're just healing the mind, but we have to heal the body component with it. So some more information on this program. It's kind of a little bit blurry, but on my website, I have all this information. Here is a list of all of the modules that's inside of the course. We've got EFT, that bonus module on quick, effective change. And then there's 8 modules that's all about overhauling, digging deep to do that cognitive change that's in your mind. And then the group calls that we do every week are on EFT, and we also do EMDR and sensory motor all in there to have that subconscious rewiring. So investing in yourself has the best ROI. So investing in the self, there are 3 options. The first option is pay in full, flat rate of $2,000. The second option is a 3-month payment plan of 3 monthly payments of $750, or the most easy monthly plan is 6-month payment plan of $425. So you can do 6 monthly payments of that. But because you are on this call and you are ready to look at yourself, For this workshop, I am doing a bonus that if you join, because I'm not officially opening doors until Monday. So if you are watching now or even the replay, there's going to be a huge discount. So if you book before Monday, Inner Compass Accelerator is only $1,800 and it's really blurry, but what you're also going to receive is if you pay in full by Monday is you're going to receive 4 sessions with me. And those sessions, we're going to do one-on-one EFT to really jumpstart your healing journey. And you're also going to get a digital planner. It has 40 pages of everything that's going to set you up for success if you enroll before Monday. If you enroll after Monday, the 4 sessions go down to 1 session and the price goes back up to $2,000. So that's just a little bit more about the program, lifetime access. This was launched a year and a half ago. So just a little thought for you. Life is like a video game, and healing your past wounds prevent future triggers. So if you are constantly getting triggered, it's because you have past wounds that are not healed. So EFT gives you a resource in the moment to prevent stress turning into anxiety. And the lifetime access of this program gives you the flexibility to support that you need to constantly break that high functioning anxiety cycle. So when you have lifetime access, there's no fear of what happens in a year when I need extra support. You can hop on, which is the beauty of it, and you can get that support that you need. So when you join, you're going to integrate these skills that's going to help you when life throws stress at you. Because when we think about life being a video game, every level in the video game, there's stress, right? You have to do new tasks. You have to defeat the boss at the end. You have to have new resources. And no matter what level you're at, you're going to have stress. The same with our life. No matter what level we're at in our life, we're going to have stress. It's a new type of stress, but we're going to have stress. And with this program, Inner Compass Accelerator, you're going to get the tools to release any past stress and the tools to prevent new stress from turning into that chronic anxiety. So Inner Compass Accelerator is hosted on a totally separate platform. It's not a Facebook group. It's not this. It's platform on Mighty Networks that has everything in there. So we've got the links for the group calls in the Mighty Networks. We've got the course. We also have this private support group where you can share your wins, your successes, and your struggles throughout the time. There are 2 calls on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and those calls are anywhere from 90 minutes, 60 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how many people show up. So you will definitely get a lot of time to share and process. And you might be wondering, I don't want to share in front of a group. And let me tell you, the healing work that you can do in groups is sometimes we share something and someone else says, wow, I thought I was the only one that had that same struggle. This is so incredible to know that other people have this struggle and I'm not alone. And when you start to see other people heal through that struggle and you see them being inspired and motivated, that can really allow you that permission to inspire and be motivated yourself. It's such a beautiful transformation. And I love the process of group work and what it can provide for other people. Here are some testimonials from other people, and these are also on my website if you want to read them even more in depth. But people have completely changed their lives. Anxiety is no longer on the forefront of their mind, and they're able to release that anxiety that has been holding them back and living, and now they are actually able to live a life of true fulfillment. Someone joined the program a year and a half ago, and I just got a text message from them saying, this program completely changed my life, and I'm so happy that I was a part of that program and how I'm able to wake up without anxiety, set healthy boundaries, and really go after what makes me happy in my life. So you can be the next to find your inner compass and live a life of true fulfillment. What are you waiting for? Let's take a leap and see how you can find your inner compass. Your future self is waiting for you. So the roadmap to find your inner compass is already laid out for you. There's no guesswork. There's no, what do I need to do? It's already laid out for you on the conscious healing and the subconscious healing. So you can release that anxiety that is causing you problems and stress in your life. Thank you so much. Inner Compass Accelerator program is open for enrollment. There is more information in the description below, and doors are going to close July 3rd. So make sure that you enroll. And again, if you enroll this weekend before doors are open, there's so many more bonuses that it's going to really just be a no-brainer and no questions asked. So thank you so much for taking time to learn today, learn about your inner compass, learn about that high function anxiety, coping skills, the window of tolerance. I have going to be on social media all weekend. So if you want to send me a DM of more questions, if you have things that you're not sure of, definitely let me know. And I cannot wait to see you inside of Inner Compass Accelerator. Thank you, Jennifer, for being here. It's so amazing that you are here and that you stayed till the end. And everyone watching the replay, I hope you have an amazing weekend. Bye, everyone.